It's important that you listen to what your body's telling you, because not everyone will recover the same. Okay? The most important things is that we think about our posture, that we're well aligned when we're doing an activity. It's also important that we're in control. Okay, so don't just push into doing things or choose the harder options and really find yourself straining or having difficulty with the exercise. It's really important that we're maintaining that alignment, we're in control before we move to those higher levels. Having said that, during the exercises, what you shouldn't feel is any downward or outward pressure through the abdominal muscles or down through the pelvic floor. If you're feeling heaviness or a bearing down, your body isn't supporting you well enough and you need to choose the easier options. Okay, going on from that even further, if you're having the bearing down and out or you're having any accidents or leaking, then that's certainly a sign that you shouldn't be taking those higher level of exercise. You need to choose something from the easier band because we shouldn't be experiencing any of those things during the exercise. If you have any pain or problems during an exercise, again, don't just keep doing it. Yes, you should feel some work, but you shouldn't feel pain. Good. All right, so as I said, it's often hard to get time to exercise as a mum. There's lots of things to do with the baby and the windows of time can often be short. So doing some things when your baby's ready to play is a good way to bond with them, interact with them and have some fun together, as well as getting some exercise for you. So the first exercise we're going to do with our bubs, they can just be on a mat on their back, and we bring ourselves onto all fours so that we're over them and we can talk to them and have a good time. Now when we're on all fours, what we don't want to be is we don't want to be arched up like an angry cat. We don't want to be really sagging. We just want to get some normal curves in our spine. So we have a small little sway in the lower spine. We want our hands to be underneath our shoulders, okay? And our knees to be underneath our hips and pelvis. Does that make sense? So we're nice and set up. Okay, from here we're going to do a pelvic floor exercise first. Okay, so maintaining this position, have a chat to your baby while you do it. I want you to take a slow breath in. As you breathe out, I want you to think about the 3 openings beneath you and gently but firmly drawing them up and almost towards your head in this position. If you've never done your pelvic floor exercise in this position, it may feel a little bit different. Okay? And then just let it go and relax. So the important cues on this one is to take a breath in. As you breathe out, gently draw up those 3 openings beneath you. Once you've got that lift, I want you to try and keep breathing but keep the lift. It's important that if we're going to do our pelvic floor and work on that muscle and have support and control there, we need to be able to breathe, we need to be able to move. We don't want to just lock everything in and think that, okay, I've got it on, because then you can't do anything. So it's important we learn to breathe as we're holding the contraction, having a rest. Now if your pelvic floor contraction feels quite good, you can feel the turn on, you can feel the hold, and you can feel it let go when you're doing it, then you're ready to start adding some variations to that and making it a little bit harder. So we're going to take our breath in first. As we breathe out, draw up the pelvic floor softly, but also with a little bit of firmness, so not as hard as you can. And then we're going to reach one arm out towards the opposite side of the room, depending on where your baby's at and their age. As you come back, you might want to hide a little bit and peekaboo. Younger babies won't get peekaboo, but older ones might think that's quite hilarious. So reach the arm forward and down. And what you can do is a few movements like that. Okay, but making sure that you've got support. The other thing is as you lift, try and make sure the rest of your body doesn't move, that you can free that arm but not be rigid everywhere else. With control and down. Let's try someone with our other arm. So make sure you engage, softly engage your pelvic floor first. Keep breathing through the action. Stretch long with the arm. Make sure you're not tightening up or holding your breath anywhere else. Okay, so we need to be able to breathe. We need to be able to bring in those supportive muscles and move at the same time. And having a rest. If that's feeling easy, you can try the next challenge. When you're ready, take your breath in, on the breath out, engage, softly engage that pelvic floor, and then stretch one leg long towards the other side of the room. And I want you to go long So it ends up level with the height of your bottom, not to try and lift up, because when you lift up, you're going to arch through your back and put more strain. So stretch long and down. And let's do that a few times on the one leg. Try and make sure you're nice and controlled and centered. There's a few happy sounds happening, so babies are happy with being talked to. If you're feeling like you're losing your control, have a rest, and then we'll switch to the other side. So let's engage the pelvic floor, keep breathing, and then stretch the leg long towards the back of the room. Okay, it's much more fun doing exercise with your bubbies. And the dishes and the house cleaning and all the other jobs you have to do, they can wait too. They're still going to be there and having a rest. Okay? If you need to at any time, just bring yourself out of that position, have a little bit of a relax. You'll know that you're struggling a little bit with control if you start to tighten up through the shoulders. If you feel like there's a lot of weight through one part of your body that's on the ground, it means that you're really working hard. So make sure that we're getting the control so that we can do that. So you might want to take the easier levels if that's you. If that's still feeling easy, we can challenge that a little bit further. Okay, so we still want to gently engage the pelvic floor. It's gentle but firm. Make sure you can keep breathing, and then we go opposite arm and leg. So the arms stretching forward, the legs reaching back. What we don't want is to be twisting, bending. We want to be able to maintain a nice body posture, nice and long, but not be rigid, as I said. That within that motion we're controlled, but we can move from it. So keep breathing. Talking to your bubby is a good way to make sure you're breathing and not holding your breath. Making sounds, doing all that nice interaction. And then we'll change sides. If you're feeling good, you can always do more than that. Or if you're feeling tired, you can stop sooner. Okay, having a rest. Come off your hands for a moment. Give those shoulders a roll. Okay, it's good for babies as well. Whilst they like the interaction, sometimes they can get a bit grizzly if they feel like you're always talking to them as well. So having those little breaks, letting them just sort of look around. And if you're getting cues from them that they're starting to get grizzly or look away from you, they're ready for some of their own time rather than interacting with you. They just need a little bit of a break. And we're all a bit like that. All right, the next one we can do in a similar position is a little push-up. Okay, but we want our hands underneath our shoulders and our knees underneath our hips to start. So the easiest way to do that with the least amount of strain or pressure is to stay in that same position. And then from there, before we start again, we just softly engage the pelvic floor. You can come down and give your bubby a kiss. They want a kiss. Okay, just bending from the elbows. Make sure you're breathing throughout the action. Okay, so it's important if you start with a push-up action that you start in the easiest position. Push-ups put a lot of extra pressure through your tummy muscles. And so if you've had any degree of separation in those tummy muscles, if it's not ready for the next level, you're going to put too much strain on that area. So start easier, and we can gradually make it harder as we go. But for now, this is a good start. And good fun. You can also, with your push-up, if you're looking for a little bit of an extra challenge, you can combine what we're doing with our Superman exercise, which was the last one. As you come down, you can stretch one leg back. So then you've got one leg on the ground as you go. But again, don't choose any of the advanced ones. until you feel like you're really in control, you're not straining as you do it. There's no downward pressure through the pelvic floor or strain through those abdominal muscles. Evie's enjoying that. Okay. So there's our push-up. Let's give our arms a little bit of a rest again. Our baby's a bit of a break. And we'll set up for the next one. We're going to go on to our sides now. Now with the side lying, your baby can either stay lying on their back. If they're ready for a cuddle, they might want to come in next to you and have a go on their side. If they're mobile, they'll just come and climb on you. Or you could have them facing you and on their side. Now it's really good. Babies spend a lot of time on their back. Okay, so they've got to be on their back to sleep. And until they can move themselves, they often get sort of a lot of time. So it's good to show them different positions, and you can do that by interacting with them on the floor. So choose whatever's comfortable for your bub. Bigger bubs that might be moving or ones that need some tummy time, you can also have your bub come over your side so they can have a little bit of a look what's behind you and get a little bit of tummy time in that way as well. Okay, so side lying positions, your babies can be in lots of different positions. Similarly, if they're starting to move towards sitting, you can sit them in up against you as well. Okay, so there's lots of ways that you can change things for your bub. All right, from here we're on our side. We just want to rest down. We want our head to be in line with our body. Okay, and your knees slightly bent. All right, from here we're going to do our clamshell action. We're going to push our heels together. There's no place like home. Push the heels together. Open the top knee. Push the heels together and come down. What we don't want is to roll back. We want to just stay nice and straight through there and just moving from your hip. Okay. Push the heels together. If you push the heels together, you'll get some good work in some of the deep muscles in your hip that help to support your pelvis. Okay, and you should be feeling the work round the side and towards your bottom. Woo. Think about trying to be nice and relaxed through everywhere else, still having that gentle engagement of your pelvic floor. And relax. All right, now that you've just got comfortable in that position, we're going to change sides. So similarly, you don't have to go straight from one side to the other. You can sort of time things with different changes with your baby. So get your head and neck in line with your body. Rest it down so that you're not working through your neck. You can really relax through your shoulders. Just really isolating the movement at the moment. Push the heels together. Lift the top knee and bring it down. Push the heels together throughout the lift and on the lower. And again, if you start to feel tired and you feel like you're losing control of the movement, have a rest. It's important to do the movement correctly. Get the right messages, the right pathways being built in your brain, rather than teaching your body the wrong movements. And having a rest. Okay, we're going to stay on the ground. We're going to bring ourselves onto our backs. Now you've got a couple of options if you're doing things on your back with your bubby. Bubbies can have some tummy time on your tummy. For babies that don't like tummy time, often having tummy time on their their parent or with someone is much more enjoyable. Okay, and you can also interact with them. They can also sit on your legs and have some sitting up time and practice. Or again, they can be on their tummy but lying over you. Okay, I don't recommend them lying on their tummy on you when they've just had a feed. You'll all know what that's like. All right, so whatever position you've chosen, let's lie with our knees bent and our feet on the ground. I just want you to find your pelvis again in this position. So think about that bucket, how we tipped water out the back and out the front. I just want you to roll the pelvis back and forward. So in this position, when you roll the pelvis back, you're flattening your back. When you roll it forward, you're getting a little bit more of an arch. Okay? So at this point, just a forward and back, nice and easy. And babies really enjoy the upright positions. So if they can do that on you, it's a win-win because they really enjoy being close to you. Okay. Okay, from there, what we're going to do is keep your baby wherever they are. If they're on your legs, they'll add a little bit of weight to this one. We want to gently draw up the pelvic floor. So in this position, take your breath. As you breathe out, you draw up. It'll often feel like it moves a little bit more because it doesn't have as much weight on it. So if you're having trouble finding your pelvic floor, lying down to begin with can be a good start. But it's important we use other positions so that it gets used to being more upright. So we gently engage the pelvic floor. Now with your knees, imagine that with them pointing up, they're pointing to 12 o'clock on a clock face. If we move them a little bit to the left, it's towards 11 o'clock, and a little bit further is towards 10 o'clock. Okay? If we move them towards the right, a little bit is towards 1 o'clock, and a little bit further is towards 2 o'clock. Okay, so a nice way to start taking your pelvic floor exercises a little bit further on the floor is to add some movement. So you gently draw up the pelvic floor, keep breathing, and then you can choose different times. So I'll talk you through some different ones. So we're starting at 12. I want you to move your knees towards 11. Now move your knees towards 2. Bring your knees over towards 10. Back to 12. We want to keep our shoulders on the ground for this one. Okay, over towards 1, back to 12, over to 2, back to 12, out to 10, up to 11, up to 12, now to 1, 2, back to 1, back to 12, 11, 10, back to 12, over to 10, up to 12, over to 2, and back to 12. Okay, so some simple motion like that starts to challenge your pelvic floor a little bit more. You'll feel that a little bit more through your tummy muscles as you're controlling the movement of your knees. As I said, if you've got a baby on your legs, it adds a little bit of weight to it as well, so it becomes a little bit more challenging. Okay, for our next one, we're going to gently draw the pelvic floor up. With your right knee, I want you to drop your right knee out to the side towards the ground. If you've got your bubby, you need to hold them so they don't fall through the hole in your knees if they're sitting there. So gently take it out to the side and back to the middle. Okay, the movement's happening from your hip, so everything else should stay in control. And again, as you drop the leg out, there's a little bit more challenge for your pelvic floor. Okay. So coming back to some of these basic, can I hold it and move? Exercises are good early after you've had a baby. Let's change to the other leg. So left leg now. Make sure you've engaged that pelvic floor. Not as hard as you can, just making sure that it's there. And taking the leg out to the side. Okay, the other knee stays pointing towards the ceiling, so it's not rolling out the other way to help balance you. Needs to stay pointing straight up. And you can challenge this exercise. If you're not holding onto a baby, the opposite arm can go out to the side, the opposite way to your leg. Okay? Not a good idea if you're holding a baby to let go of them. And having a rest. Okay. On our next exercise, one more in this position. You can have your babies either on your tummies or on your legs again. We're going to roll our pelvis back to flatten, and then we're going to try and peel our bottom and our spine off the ground. Okay? And then when you come back down, put your back one step at a time, and then slowly back to your bottom. So peel yourself off, and then put yourself down in the reverse order. Rather than doing a big lift straight up, try and really isolate and get some motion all through that lower spine and control it. Now these sorts of actions with more resistance, again, if your pelvic floor feels like you're losing it or you're bearing down or out, then please don't progress to this level. Choose the easier options. Lovely. All right. We might hop off our mats for the minute and hop up with our babies. Let's give them some different stimulation, different positions, and you can hang on to your babies for this part of the exercise. Unless they're asleep and they're happy. So if he's happy there, Jess, you don't have to. Okay. So we'll come to standing. You can probably hold your babies better than I'm holding my doll. Okay. So what I want you to do with your bubba, if you're holding a bubba, is to bring them into a little bit of a tummy time on your arm. So tummy time can be anything that involves them not being on their back. So it doesn't have to be on the ground. People sort of think that it always has to be on the ground, and babies often really don't like it on the ground because it's hard work. Okay, but we can use our handling to encourage them into that extension position. Okay, from here, we're going to use our baby as a little bit of a weight. We're going to take them one way and our leg's going to go the opposite way. Okay, now when we do this little step, what we don't want to happen is this or this. Okay, we want to make sure that we're well aligned on the leg that we're standing on. So when you bring your weight over, you come up tall, take the baby out, bring it back, slide your foot out. Okay? So that little bit of weight going in different directions just challenges you a little bit more through here, particularly when they get heavier. So the good thing about a baby, if you start some of these things early when they're lighter, as your body gets stronger and your baby gets heavier, you're progressing the exercise. Okay, make sure tall and long out of that hip with your shoulder. We don't want to be like this. Try and be down and long. It's not a big movement. Okay, and you should be starting to feel around your bottom on that side, yes? And you might be feeling a little bit of work through your tummy as well. Okay, let's try the other side with our bubbies. Okay, so the changes of position are good for them. They get to see different things. Means you can get some exercise and have that handling time. So remember, when we come over, we come long on that leg that's taking the weight. Not like this. Okay, baby goes one way, we go the other. Keep the shoulders down. So the baby's going the opposite direction. That's a good burp. Opposite direction. Okay, and you might find that you always hold your baby in one arm, usually your non-dominant arm, so you can do things with your hand that you normally do things with. So you'll find that they get heavier on the side that you don't normally hold them with. It's good for them to be handled in different ways as well. Okay, I'm going to go into a baby squat now. I don't recommend moving into squats and those things too early, particularly if you're having any trouble with the pelvic floor, so any continence issues or heaviness in that area. You need to be able to get a good pelvic floor contraction and control it through the motion, particularly if you're going to do it with your bubby, because bubbies are heavier, so they're going to add an extra weight to that. So if you're unsure, don't do it with a baby, for one, or keep the motion quite small. All right, this one's really nice. You've got some mirrors here, so at home it's often a nice one to do in front of a mirror because your bubby can see you and they can see themselves and you can interact to each other that way. You can have them this way, but it's often a little bit harder to see, but you can look at them and talk as you do it. So whatever you prefer is good. So feet about shoulder width apart, knees pointing over your toes. Okay, we think about that gentle engagement of the pelvic floor first. Make sure you're breathing. And we're going to come down, we're going to poke our bottom backwards. So it's important that when we squat, we don't squat with our tail tucked under, like we're trying to sit down with a short skirt on. It's important that you lift your tailbone and poke your bottom out. Okay, your shoulders will come a little bit forward to bring your weight over your feet. We also want to make sure that our knees are pointing over our toes. Okay, now the deeper you take your squat, the more pressure through your pelvic floor area. So certainly don't go too deep. If you're feeling like you're still getting control in that area, you can progress to deeper as you feel like you've got the strength and endurance. Make sure the tailbone goes out. It's important that we're not sucking everything in and under. Doesn't help our pelvic floor work, doesn't help us use those big muscles that are designed to do this action. So make sure that you're always having good movement, stopping if you start to feel tired or you're losing control of the motion. Okay, having a rest. We're going to put one foot in front of the other. Again, similar, this is a more challenging exercise, so if you're not feeling up to it with your bubby or with resistance, you can, Ros, if you want to use a weight, you can use that one. Okay, so one foot in front of the other, so we're balancing up our weight, so we're not going to put strain on our back. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, gently draw up that pelvic floor. Keep breathing, and then you can add some lifts with your baby. And again, the weight of your baby, as they get bigger, it gets harder, this exercise. Okay, so you can lift them up, have a chat, and down. Important things are not to do that with them. Again, probably not recommended if they've just had a feed. Particularly if they enjoy positing a little bit. So keep them close, keep it controlled, just work within what you can. Okay, this can be really challenging, so don't do too many repetitions, make sure you're in control. Okay, so rather than being out here, keep them close. But it can be nice, lots of fun. Similarly, you can do it in front of the mirror and they can see what's going on. And that's often quite entertaining to them as well. Okay, and you can change which foot's in front of the other. Okay, so that's a baby lift. Similarly, you can do baby lifts in sitting as well. Okay? Different positions.